I want to better understand what they're looking to achieve into business ownership. Because I will tell you, every single client that I speak with, their objectives and the motives to get into business ownership are different, right? So I do also want to understand how important of status of their business is, right? For some folks, they don't care what it is.
Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Kris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to the TPF podcast. Today, Andrea and I have two of our peer consultants here at the Perfect Franchise. We have Janet Miller with us and Derek Sola. Janet, Derek, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you guys on. So I was filling you both in. This is, these expert series, we love doing these because it gives our clients, how do we sort of take you through the process? What are some of our thoughts? And so something we've been trying over the past month is sort of these scenarios that I'm calling, what would you do? Case studies. And so these are all, they're made up, but they're not. We have these scenarios every single day with our clients where we have to answer these questions, help them, guide them through this process. That's our role. And so let's sort of start out. And Derek, I'm going to ask you to answer this first one.
Okay.
So, you have this client, they've been really successful corporate exec. We get those all the time. You show them the three different sectors and they lean home services. Home services is sort of that lower cost of entry. They love that. There's maybe lower risk to it. You don't have the brick and mortar piece, but it's a little bit more blue collar, right? And so it's sort of their worry, is this sort of beneath me? What are the type of things you tell them they should consider?
Well, that's a really good question. And that's a scenario that I think happens to all of us from time to time. I guess I'd want to better understand what the objectives of that client is, right? How much time do they have, right? Some brands I can show our clients, you could be spending 40, 50, 60 hours in, right? Other brands I can show you, maybe you're only spending 10, 15, 20 hours a week. So first off, I want to better understand how much time you have, right? But secondly, I want to get to know our clients, right? Why are we here? What's the objective, right? Is this something where you want to bring your kids into the business? Are you looking for maybe to help out with retirement, right? So I want to better understand what they're looking to achieve into business ownership. Because I will tell you, every single client that I speak with, their objectives and the motives to get into business ownership are different, right? So I do also want to understand how important of status of their business is, right? For some folks, they don't care what it is, right? It could be a porta potty business. Other people, Derek, there's got to be 200 or 300 other businesses out there that make good money, and I'll say absolutely there are, right? So how important is status? In other words, I need to get to understand our clients and my clients specifically, understand what their motives are and their objectives are. Assuming that I have a better understanding, if they don't have a lot of time, I'm going to show them retail brands where you can be much more semi-absentee. Maybe you have a little more time, maybe it's 20 hours a week. I'm going to show them home service brands. And so when they ask, hey, if this may be beneath them, I want to better understand what that means. Right? Because some of these brands, I will tell you, Andrea, you don't have to be as active in home services, but other ones you may have to be more full time. So it depends on our clients, and it depends on what their objectives are, what their short-term, long-term objectives are. Does that make sense?
So I think everything Derek said is spot on. It also, if somebody is concerned with the social status of the actual product or service, there's another level of consideration here. And it really, what I'm talking about is we talk a lot about the fit of the business versus the passion of the business. And to put it succinctly, if somebody's thinking, hey, it's a good business model, but the service is beneath me, which is essentially what we were saying at the beginning of this question, it indicates to me that they're placing too much emphasis and too much importance on the product or service, right? That they need to identify it. That product's got to be me, right? Like I like woodworking, so I've got to get into woodworking, or I'm super passionate about saving the planet and the environment, so I want to do something that's eco-conscious. And I really try, I'm not always successful, to teach my clients that, listen, I want to find businesses where the product or service is of interest to you, right? That you can have some engagement with. But the word passion is a very dangerous word, because typically businesses that you're super passionate about, they're harder to be successful in, right? And I think any of us can recall a time, or many times, where you met the guy sitting on the yacht. How'd you make your money, right? And it was in iron ore smelting, or it was in waste management. Like there was no passion there, right?
Yeah.
So I always tell people that if you're looking for passion, which I know isn't exactly what you ask, but I think it's an indicator when something's beneath them, that they're looking for something to be more passionate or identify with. What you got to realize, that every successful business owner I've ever met, or I put in business, or you put in business, they all had the exact same passion, which is building the business, right? Because when you remove the widget, the product, the service, put it to the side, a lot of business is the same. I had one client tell me, I've owned 4 different businesses, totally different industries, and my days were the same. They were all phone calls, spreadsheets, and something else. I can't remember. And I thought about it. I said, yeah, that's right. That is business, right? So probably gave you more than my 2 cents there, Andrea.
No, I think it's good. And I think the last point you made, Kris, about sort of the passion versus the fit. And I think that also is one of the things I would say to clients is, try to take off the consumer hat and put on the business owner hat. And I think that that's a really important part of this. Is doesn't mean you're going to use the product or service, but do you think it's a really good business? Do you think it's one that's solid, that's going to stay around, that's going to continue to make money? That's really important. And I always use Starbucks as an example, because you guys know my husband, David. He does not like Starbucks. He thinks they're overpriced drinks. My girls love it. They're begging to go all the time. And so it's one of those things where he's like, good business makes money. When you put on your business owner hat, the consumer, he's like, I don't really want to pay for overpriced coffee. And so that's part of it, I think. And then, the only other thing I'll say is, Derek, you kind of hit on this a little bit. Is it something that truly is at a social status? Is it beneath them? Or are they viewing it wrong, where they think they have to do the work and the labor piece? And so that's another big piece is home services. You're not the person rolling up your sleeves. I owned a cleaning company. I didn't roll up my sleeves and clean toilets. Did I occasionally go in and help out and just kind of get to know my staff and do that? Yes. You're not rolling up your sleeves and doing it. And so part of it is, what's the team you're hiring? Are they the people doing the work? Could you subcontract out the work? If you don't want a large team that does that, maybe you're running it more as a higher level business and you're subcontracting out, and the people working for you are more of a sales team and less of a technical team.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point there, Andrea. And I'll tell you, some of the clients I speak with, I also want to better understand not only what is important to you today, but what do you want your life to look like 5, 10 years down the road, right? If I can show you a brand to get you, if I can show you a business model to get to where you want to be 5, 10 years down the road, is that the ultimate goal? Or is it something else, right? So for instance, let me give you an example real quick. I get people that say, hey, Derek, I want to buy an ice cream shop, right? And I'll go, well, how come? What do you want to buy an ice cream shop for? Well, there's this one right around the corner. I see lines outside all the time, right? And I walk in, I'm sitting there with my wife, my children, right? We're having a good time. I look around, everyone's smiling. Derek, I want a feel-good brand like that. And I go, okay, all right. My question I would ask that client is, do you love teenagers? Do you love to manage teenagers, right? 8 times out of 10, they'll say, Derek, I can't even stand my teenagers half the time, let alone someone else's, right? And I go, well, you may not want an ice cream shop, because if you're going to own an ice cream shop, you're going to manage teenagers, right? Let's go fit you into a business that fits your skill sets, right? What you're good at, not what you're not good at, and make sure we're hitting your short-term and long-term goals.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I think we had a good one there. I like that one. It's one we hear all the time.
Got a second scenario for you here, Janet. So it's really, how do you coach, consult, manage clients through the discussions of partnership, right? Whether you have two lifelong friends, two siblings, maybe one is the money and the other is the sweat equity, and um, there's a lot that goes into it. Do you give them much advice, or you say, yeah, go for it, and let the let them figure it out, or what do you do for them?
This is a tricky question.
That's why we asked you.
Um, and there's no definitive answer, frankly. One of the first things I tell them is to just make sure that they are both aligned on their why, right? We talk about the why all the time with clients. So for both, they need to understand their goals, and they both need to understand their expectations, right? What does success look like for each of you, right? Once they're both aligned, and then obviously, like partnerships, I've seen partnerships go horribly wrong, right? So they have to make sure then that their roles are very, very clearly defined, right? The one providing the funds, they might have some oversight in the business, but the other one is actually going to be running the business. So they're going to be managing the team. They're going to be doing all the basic business functions. They're going to be driving the business. Does that person get more of an equity stake? Do they not get more of an equity stake? They need to make sure that their vision is clear and aligned before they enter into anything.
Derek, anything to add to that?
I would agree with you, Janet. That is a tough question. And be honest with you, I don't know about the three of you. Long-term partnership, I don't think the odds are with you. And I've seen a little bit more against you. And that's just kind of the truth. So I think to kind of piggyback on what Janet said is, are you guys aligned short term and long term? What does that look like? But secondly, ask the tough questions to each other, right? What does this look like? How long are you looking to be in business together, right? Some people may want to get into business ownership, but their goal is to be out in 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. To sell the business, right? It could be, hey, I'm looking to do this the next 15 years to support my family, and maybe I'm going to have my kids more involved. This could be a legacy play, right, where my kids continue on. So I think we may not have all the answers, but I think we know what the questions are. And I think to do our clients right, make sure they're asking those hard pressing questions. Because once you get into partnership, you're in partnership together. So that's what I would couple on with what Janet said.
Yeah. I mean, I just got off with a client. It's funny, a first call, and husband and wife team, and it's him and two of his friends. They want to go in, all three of them. And I said, time out. Because I said, what have you talked through with the partnership? They hadn't really. And so all these scenarios you're pulling out, we are so far from looking at brands and going down that path, because how much money you're each investing, who's going to be the GM? None of you are going to be the GM. You want to hire somebody? How are you going to make this work? Like, all those questions were thrown out. They really got to have at least some of that discussed before they come to us. I know on paper it sounds great. Like, hey, it's a big investment. We both have 15 to 20 hours a week. That makes a full-time person. We can go in. But there's so many nuances to it. And that ultimately really drives what business would be right for them. Yeah. And so we've got to know that, and it's hard. And so really making them think before we sort of move forward that next step, how do we sort of sit and go through these scenarios and really come up with it as a group to say, do I want to do this? I think partnerships is really hard. The one other thing that I've heard that maybe works a little bit better than, say, like a 50-50 partnership where everybody gets a third, is potentially where somebody says, I have a great brother-in-law. He's more technical, more operations. I gave him 10% equity stake, and then he's my GM, and then I own the majority share, so I can dictate what happens to the business. Yeah. I think that works maybe potentially a little bit better, but sort of where two people are either trying to come and figure it out and they're 50-50, there's so many scenarios, to your point. What if their kids come in? I think that's hard to really talk through with them.
I had a conversation with a client recently, and, financially, he was solid as a rock, no issues. And I just kept asking him, like, why are you looking to bring on this partner? Why is this partner so important to you to bring on? And he kept saying, well, he has experience. It was for a food concept. He has experience in food, and he has experience in this, and he has experience in this. And I said, but he doesn't have direct experience in this exact type of business. Keep in mind, your franchisor is your business partner. You are paying them a royalty of 5%, 6%, 7%. Consider them your 7% partner. They're the ones that have the expertise. They are, in essence, your business partner. You don't need a third partner.
Yeah.
Great.
That's great. Both of you guys, great, or all three of you. Anybody who's listened to the podcast knows I can be kind of a smart ass. So I say, when people talk about partners, because they'll say, what do you think about partnership? And I was like, that's like asking me, is marriage a good thing? Just depends who you marry, man. That's it, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned that Derek's outlook on partnership's so bleak. Derek, did you have bad partner in the past? Is that what happened?
Well, you know what, Kris Simonich? I've only had success. However, I will tell you this, with a lot of people I know, that's not always the case. And I think it's very important for folks to be realistic, because if we look at our lives and what it looked like 5-10 years ago, our motives may have been different back then, right, as opposed to today. So we want to make sure our clients are planning for what their life is going to look like 5 and 10 years down the road, and make sure that partnership aligns. But yeah, had some snags in the road, to be honest with you, Kris.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening, Kris and Derek were partners a long time ago.
Right. Yeah. I'm feeling a little self-conscious in this conversation.
I know, right? He threw you under the bus a little bit. But
Andrea, you wanna take us across the finish line here?
Yeah, I think that's great. I know we only made it to 2 scenarios, but I think those were really solid scenarios. Janet missed the first one. She's going to have to listen back, but really helpful having both of you on and kind of diving into this. I think this is so important for our clients to really to hear the types of conversations we have, because we are an honest bunch. We're not going to take you through this process and not give you sort of the good, the bad, and things to think about. That's our role, is to coach and guide you. We're not selling you anything. And so I think that's really important to have you guys on and help people understand that. So thank you, Janet. Thank you, Derek, for coming on. So if you're out there and you're thinking about franchising, remember that while there's no one-size-fits-all, the perfect franchise for you is definitely out there. To explore your options, visit theperfectfranchise.com and click on Let's Talk to schedule a call with a consultant on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you again on our next